As I said, I would like then to speak about the Moroccan National Energy Strategy, the role of the institution which I'm in charge of it, and we are playing two missions. The first one is funding, and is the role of a funding agency, and I will explain how do we want them to support capacity building through the funding of R&D projects. The second point, we are also developing joint R&D infrastructures, and I would like also then to explain how do we want them to support capacity building in this field. And the last slides, I would like to speak how do we imagine could the project Renewable and also with the support of the European partners, could we strengthen this work. Firstly, it's a brief introduction. We have, and we will have for the next 10 years, a strong increase of needs of the primary energy, but also directly also of electricity. So here you will see till 2020 we will double our energy need and also our electricity need, and by 2030 we will have the system also, we will then double this need from 2020. That's why we decided 2009 to establish a new national energy strategy. And the idea was simple, to say we have to secure our energy supply. Why? Because we are importing more than 94% of our primary energy need. The second point was also to think about the long-term development. The solution was to say, or one of the solutions is the mix. We have then to mix. We don't need only then to use fossil energy sources, but we have the resources in the field of renewables, and we have then to try to diversify our resources, and with a huge emphasis on renewable energy, especially hydropower. We have it already. We started. It was then the first engagement of the Moroccan government in hydropower. The second now topic is wind power. We will install, but I will show this 2,000 megawatt by 2020. Also 2,000 megawatt solar energy by 2020. And it was also important to say this the first time in a national strategy for a specific topic or sector that we had from the beginning a budget for R&D and also for capacity building, around about 50 million euros. And the idea was then to develop the R&D know-how, capacity building, and the last goal or the objective is, of course, job creation and creation of companies, local content, and industrial integration. Here is I would say maybe this is it has a little bit then changed, but the target by 2020 would be the installed capacity of 42% of renewable energy, composed by 14% hydro, 14% wind, and 14% solar energy. I have to say I changed this slide because a few years ago, 2010, our system, after the accident of Fukushima, our system, 2010, we had their nuclear energy, and it was planned also to install nuclear energy. And then they said, oh no, we will stop now also this plan. And they asked, what do they have then to write here? Because of the 7%, it's 7%. And they told me others. Maybe it could be also a potential for biomass or for other technologies. Then another important point, we did also a study to identify what's the need. What's the need in the, I think it was short, middle term, the need on human resources. For renewable energies based on the national plans, it would be around about 13,000, more than 13,000 people. For energy efficiency, around about 36,000. It means a total of 50,000 people. And that's why we had also then to develop faster strategy and to prepare all the people and the human resources. And that's why I have here tried then to summarize the support or the initiatives. I have to say that in the middle we have of course universities. What I'm saying here, I am only then speaking about what was it then planned to support universities. And here we have then different levels on capacity building. So the first one was then the technical training and also the training of technicians. And that's why we decided, the Moroccan government then decided then to set up institutions, centers to train then technicians. Today I will speak about it. We are building 3 centers. IFMERE, c'est les instituts de formation professionnelle des énergies renouvelables et de l'efficacité énergétique, also of course for energy efficiency. The first one now would be then in Oujda, the second one in Tangier, and the third one in Ouarzazate. Then the second action, it was also then planned to support university programs, as you said, master degrees, PhD programs, but also to develop joint R&D infrastructures, and for the long term also then to finance and to support R&D programs for the long term. For this first, for this aspect, in regard to the technical training, excuse me. I am trying to. I'm doing the same. Oh, no. Okay, so in this regard, as I told you, this is you have in the first technical training center for technicians, the second one in Tangier, and the third one in Ouarzazate, where also we are now, I think, we are also in the construction phases of the last one. And it was also new because it's financed by the Moroccan government, but it would be managed by the industrial associations, 2 important associations, FENELEC and FIM, with the support of some state agencies like our grid operator ONE or ADERE, our agency for the promotion of renewable energy and energy efficiency, or MAZEN, the working agency for solar energy. What we are, or how are we as IRESEN also then supporting this strategy? I have to say then briefly, the system IRESEN is a kind of, we are a foundation founded by different stakeholders, and they are public and private. We have, for example, private institutions like Managem, or now also Nariva is a new one, OCP Group, the shareholder is state, but it's a company, and also state agencies or institutions like ONE or ADERE or MAZEN. And the idea was from the beginning then to support them, to support the national energy strategy, and we decided then to play 2 roles. Funding agency role, and the second then role is role as a research center developer. This means for the first step, I will speak about the funding of R&D projects. Directly we are trying then to support this level for capacity building, but we are financing also equipment for universities, and it means we are also supporting programs from universities. Yeah, till today we launched since 3 years 7 call for proposals. We are financing more than 125 million dirhams, around about 12 million euros for 36 projects of different universities. I have to say we have a project of the University Mohammed V Agdal, or also now the new one, also the University Omed in Fes. And we saw it was very interesting also then to see that it was a very good instrument to develop also and to strengthen the link between companies and universities, because they are now starting then to work together. They prepared some projects or proposals for the call for proposals, but now they are also then working together. In numbers, today we are financing around about 260 PhD students and engineers. We are also supporting 83 researchers, professors. And we are now, since we were buying different equipment for different universities, different labs in the field of the project. We have, for example, the possibility from the total budget cost to finance 60% for equipment, because we know there is a lack in regard to scientific equipment in our universities, and it was important then to say we have then to give this possibility then for people, and we have also success fees to motivate the researchers, or then to support also different kind of trainings. But it's very important then to say that in this context, we're also now building our and supporting PhD students and engineers. The second aspect is capacity building into the research center. And the idea was then to create and to set up joint R&D infrastructures. We are a small country. It would be very difficult, and now when we started with the Moroccan Solar Plan and also with the wind program, but it was stronger with the Moroccan Solar Plan. All the universities, maybe there's a lot of researchers, decided then to start with a master for renewable energy, and especially then for solar energy, and now for batteries and for specific components, even if we don't have the components, and even if we don't really have the market, because it's only we are only starting. And that's why it was in the idea to say we have then to set up joint infrastructures. The first one is the Green Energy Park. Green Energy Park, the idea behind Green Energy Park was then to say we tried to identify the best place to create synergies. Here, for example, we are near of Marrakesh, 65 kilometers far from Marrakesh in the direction of Casablanca. And here we are in front of a new university. It's also a new one, like the Euromed Invest. It's called University Mohammed VI Polytechnique. It's founded by OCP. OCP is one of our biggest industries or companies. We are 700 meters far in front from this university. We are 65 kilometers far from the University Qadi Ayad in Marrakesh, also a very well-known university with a lot of researchers who are working in the field of solar energy and renewables. We are maybe around about 130 kilometers far from CETAT. They are also now working in this field. And we have also a partner, even if it's a little bit far, but it's a relative, also the University Mohammed V Agdam, because at the beginning we had also then the plan to install a lab there, but we said we have then to create and to have a critical mass, and that's why the idea was then to install all the labs there. In numbers, we are starting with 8 hectares. We have, but I think we will see this now. Yeah, first it's also important then to say the idea was to have on the same location basic research, fundamental research on labs, then to have also testing and prototyping platforms and pilot projects. Why pilot projects? Because today we were starting, and for a lot of companies, they don't want to know how is the deposition of silver on a mirror, or how is the composition of a specific material for a PV module, but they want to say how do they have to maintain, how do they have to do the operation of power plants, PV power plants, solar power plants, and it was very important to say we need also those big pilot projects. It has an advantage, of course. We had then to try to have the capex and the investment for the capex, but the advantage is we are in a green city, in the middle of a green city, And the green city now, because it's green and it has then to buy green electricity, will consume our electricity produced by the pilot project, and then will give us during 25 years money. We are not speaking about selling energy, but we are only saying that they are consuming the energy and they will then give us this kind of incentive, and give us also for the platform the budget for OEM during 25 years. And of course it's an advantage. We have different partners. I spoke already about the Moroccan partners, about the Moroccan universities. We have also IRESEN is a member, OCP is a member, we are founding members, and then the other universities are also then involved. We did it a little bit different because of the governance. We created an association. It's an association, and we will be then members of this association because it's easier. As I said, we saw in the last year all the time, and for R&D, when we say it has to be then fast, it's a little bit difficult when we have a lot of procedures and we have a complicated administration. That's why we did it and so on. Here only this is some pictures. This is some different labs for cell R&D, module R&D, CC R&D, joint platform then to work together, testing and pilot projects. That's the first R&D platform. And the idea is then to develop other platforms. Maybe for next year we start with the second one. It would be the water energy part. Then the third and fourth one, it would be biomass, bioenergies, and smart grid and energy efficiency. This one, wind energy park, I don't know if it's because we started already then with some call for proposals for wind power, and we didn't have enough projects, I think, because the technology is more than mature, and we don't have enough then companies which are working in this field. Yeah, the last point, how do we imagine, or it was also then the first idea to start also with Magrenov, to say, how could we then strengthen this relationship, how could we then, work better together? And the idea was, of course, capacity building, joint R&D project, joint funding. We will do it also, as I said, in the frame of Magrenov, and we will then prepare for next year a joint call for proposal. And I hope we will have also the participation not only from the European partner with Morocco, but also the European partner with Morocco and Tunisia. And then the other idea was, of course, to say we have also to try to use jointly the R&D infrastructures. Why? Because for specific applications, it makes sense then to do it, maybe this is more in the south, when we're speaking about concentrated technology or about CPV, or it makes more sense than to do it here or to have a solar tower to do it in the south as to do it in the north. This is all the time I'm asking, or I'm saying to Professor Hofschmidt of the Solar Institute of Jülich, why do you have the solar tower there? It doesn't work because they don't have enough sun. And it will make sense. The idea is, of course, then to try then to unify academic teaching, but to promote dual studies, north-south, and also maybe trial studies, north-south-south, because we are also then trying to strengthen the relationship to other MENA countries, or also then to the sub-Saharan African countries, to facilitate knowledge transfer and mobility. It could be then also very interesting. And the last one, as I said, I think to have them joint R&D infrastructures. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution.
I don't know if there is a question, or do we do it then after the last session?
In the sessions, I prefer to do it a debate after the presentation, okay, and eventually at the end.
Okay.
And but by the end, in order to motivate the initial participation of the audience, let me tell you another joke. I hope that the Spanish government, after investing in football, is going to change. So let's turn the disaster into an opportunity, okay? So I hope so. So that's
and I think the added value will be, I think, maybe this is better.
Probably I agree with you, certainly. I'm pretty sure of that. So please, I think that there are different items in your presentation that are very interesting. So perhaps let me start because I have some, and of course it's essentially to motivate that you participate. I'm very interested in the model, and so I see that your institution, of course, is a key institution in Morocco, and this means that probably you have different actions. For example, research projects where universities participate. Okay. And then you have listed universities where you have cooperation and so, because my feeling, but I would like to know your opinion because I'm open, so I want to tell you that I'm completely open to your concepts. I want to learn from you to get the best approach to what we want to do, okay? My feeling is that the universities participating here can be, as in any university, in any place in the world. In the US, it's exactly the same. Just to mention something, some place which is not Europe, and it is not correct. In the US, it is exactly the same. Exactly the same. You have essentially in the US two types of universities: teaching universities and research universities. And I think that we can identify more or less the same in Europe and probably not there. I don't know, just because I'm not so familiar. Other colleagues of mine in UPC, they have the strong collaboration with the universities in Morocco, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. Okay. So, do you feel that this, let's say, dichotomy, which perhaps I'm simplifying a little bit, okay, that it is being done in the US and in Europe, that some universities are essentially teaching universities and some other universities are more focused to be research universities, is also the same in Morocco? Do you feel so or no?
I have to say maybe this is we have another, we speak about another model, for example, and you have it, it's also then similar in the US. In Germany, for example, in Germany we have of course universities, but we have a lot of other institutions like Max Planck, Leibniz, Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, and it's very interesting because there are a kind of interfaces between universities and companies, and there are in universities. So I would say maybe 80% of all those institutions are then in universities. And it's a huge advantage. Why? Because I will give an example, and it was also for us the argument to start then the cooperation with OCP and also with the University Mohammed VI Polytechnic. We said, listen, we will come there. You will have then, because we have a cooperation agreement, you will have then the possibility to use a different kind of equipment and to do the system different than work there. And you don't have then to think about OEM, about all the OPEX maintenance of equipment, and we will then have by all the equipment. For us, it's important then to have students, to have researchers, and then to work together. In Germany, it works because I have then to say we have in Morocco the French model. It means at the beginning the priority was, of course, teaching. And it's worked, and it works, and especially in the field of engineering, we have a very well-known engineer schools like EMI or Hassaniya in Casablanca, and it works then really. Then some researchers started, even if we don't have the status of researchers in Morocco, we have then more than the professor status, and then professor maybe researcher. Even if it's in the case, people then started then with fundamental research, studies, and also because of the lack of equipment, and then it changed and had a little bit. I think for me this is, and it was my experience in Germany because I lived there and I worked there. I worked on a double institute. It was a double institute in Berlin. One part was an institute from the Technical University Berlin, and the other one was an institute of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. And all the time we had then people who worked, or then professors, researchers who worked then on both sides. When we had then fundamental research or project for 10 or 12 years, it was all the times it was project from the university, finance from the DFG, and the research institution in Germany, for example, and it was then we had the involvement of the university side. When we had, for example, more a kind of technical support, scientific support, or a project for a short, mid-term, then we had the implication or the involvement of the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, and it works. It works really. I am trying, and we are trying to do the same. The other point, I have also to speak about maybe this is another point, but at the beginning, all the time it's difficult. Because also in Morocco it's difficult, because when you are starting with something new, all the people will say, oh, we are here, so you are trying then to do something else. But I asked in Germany, and they told me when we started with Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in 1953, we had the same problem. We had then the same problem because they told we have already then Max Planck, and we have also other institutions. But today, it's one of the strongest applied R&D institution worldwide. It's the biggest one in Europe. For example, last year they had 2.1 billion euros only with R&D. It's incredible, and they are supporting universities. For example, in Dresden, now they have 7 Fraunhofer institutes inside, and it's supporting also the university. It's not a competition. And I have to say this all the time. We are starting with joint project with universities, and we will have the complementarity. Those kind of interfaces are very, very and it's very interesting. And in the past, it was a little bit different. For example, aerospace and all the aerospace fields, you had an institute only then to manage huge, big projects and to do the coordination and to have also some experts in the field of law, IP, and it's important to have this kind of interfaces also to support universities. What was the question?
I understand. I think it's very interesting, this point, because in fact my question was to see, I'm always thinking about the knowledge triangle.
Yeah.
This means connecting higher education, research and infrastructures, and business creation. So then I think that my initial priority, but I don't know if this is to have the universities on board of our ambition. I think that we should prioritize the universities that they are as closest as possible to this concept of the knowledge triangle. That's in fact, this is my ultimate goal, to have universities familiar with the concept of research and innovation, and with the concept of business creation. That's the perfect situation. I
have to say, for example, that for me it would have been not a good choice than to split into groups. We have to be more realistic. Madrid, but also from Morocco. I have to say, we have to be realistic. The fact is, we can't be excellent in all topics, in all thematics, in all universities. It means for the university they have then to know, and that's why I spoke about this euphoria with renewable energy and solar energy, and all the people want them to have the system, to have a lab for solar energy and to work in solar energy. Now we have to understand, we have to have a different kind of excellence centers, and that's why we said, also based on the human resources, to try to have 4 or 5 excellence institutions in specific topics. You will have maybe the system in Rabat. We will have the huge expertise in CPV or in storage or in specific topics. Of course, there are also universities that are also able to work in this field. But it would be very interesting that you have this complementarity and to have a speciality in different topics. But to say to have only universities specialized only on teaching, the other one only on modern research, I think it's not the target. The target is really then to have both, to try then to have also education by research, but maybe for every university to try to check, to evaluate what is my potential, and to try then to develop the best expertise in this field. In Germany, for example, it's maybe a little bit difficult. You will not find the German universities on the top. No, it's not the case.
That's true. Yeah.
But based when I'm comparing the products and the technical products and also the industry, they have to be good. They have to be good. And when we are checking, we will find, for example, I studied on a university, Technical University Berlin. I think it's ranked 120 worldwide or 160. I don't know.
This is another problem.
But I work on an institute, and there are two in Germany, one in Berlin, one in Aachen, and based on the engineering and the engineering in the field of production technologies, they are one of the best. Yeah. That's a little bit the problem, and that's why I think it would be very positive also then from Morocco, to try to have them to be specialized, but to have both R&D and teaching. It's very important.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you, and then I have another question. Let me tell you that I share with you that it is true. TU Berlin, for example, is an excellent university. Other German universities are excellent as well, but they have probably the same problem that we have in UPC, that usually technical universities, in the rankings of universities, the parameters that are being weighted are parameters that are not good for us. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah,
so of course we have to use parameters that are comparable, and I fully agree with you that.
Excuse me to interrupt you. In specific topics, I visited a few years ago, 2 years ago, Stanford University, and UPC, or University of Sevilla, is maybe then 10 times better in solar energy than Stanford University, and they have the more expertise, more people, more. That's why we don't have them to evaluate then all the topics, because when we are saying it has to be a university, you have to be open-minded for different topics, but you have to be very good in some specific topics.
I fully agree with you, because I was going to tell this, that when here in Spain, if we compare with the University of Barcelona, which is a very good university, scientific and humanistic, depending on the parameters, they are better. Depending on the parameters, we are better. So I fully agree. And then I fully agree with you as well. For example, the field is power electronics. So the best university in power electronics in the world is Virginia Tech. And you would never say so. So we usually think about the MIT. The MIT, they are excellent, of course, or Georgia Tech or Caltech or whatever. But the MIT is fantastic. It's a very good university, but not in power electronics. In power electronics, perhaps they are not in the top 10 in this particular field. So I agree with you that we have to understand where we focus. Okay. And then, but that's important to know that yes, that at the end it's important to have the universities that are proactive, that are excellent, despite if they are technical teaching universities or research universities.
And I would like to add, excuse me, that we are only financing projects involving a minimum 1 Moroccan university and minimum 1 company. It's an instrument also then to bridge this gap between the both institutions. And it's also open for foreign partners, because when we're speaking about technology transfer, we have to be open also then to partner institutions.
Okay, I fully agree, because this is part of what we look for, this cooperation with tech. Let me ask you another point. Your institution, IRESEN, and perhaps R&D Morocco, and they'll have this not here now, but your institution, because this happens exactly the same in Europe. Sometimes your institution has a contact with the companies that is a little bit different than the contact of the universities with the companies. I'm not saying it is better, I'm saying it's different. Okay? So the perspective you may have when you talk to the companies about the human resource needs of the companies, it's interesting for us because probably because you talk to a lot of people and so on. Okay? And so then, generally speaking, because I have seen that you have some program for technicians, so I have seen different programs there. From your perspective, the human resource, generally speaking, and not thinking about a particular company or whatever, which kind of human resource needs the companies based in Morocco? It doesn't mind if they are national or international, it doesn't mind. And generally speaking, the global view, the human resource needs they have about people with a degree.
I
engineering degree.
we did a study, I will send you the study, but it was clear from the beginning that we need more technicians. And we need also the system to valorize more technicians. Why? Because we tried then to hire, a few months ago, to hire some technicians, electricians for our cell lab. And we started then to search, and we saw that a lot of good technicians, they stop to be technician, and they're trying then to do this and other, they are following training programs and education programs to become an engineer. And then I have to say maybe they will be not very, because of the profile, because of the experience, they are not very good engineers, but we are losing those people as technicians. The big problem is more, I would say, technicians, and also then applied engineers. We have it, for example, we still have it in Switzerland. We have then, we are saying engineer of data, state engineer, and he's doing then maybe then more theory, but we need also more applied engineers and technicians.
That's important, because I think that this is something important for all of us to know really because we are doing exactly the same in IRESEN. So trying to identify the human resource strategy of the different companies, because at the end we want to couple everything. Of course, we want to cooperate in research and in business creation, for sure, and in innovation. But for the education side, we need to couple, we need to match our strategy with the strategy of the company. So I think this is something very important to understand. Okay, so if this report can be shared,
of course,
this could be excellent. So if we upload it, or if you send it by email, if we upload it in the folder, this should be very interesting. These were my two questions. I don't know if you have more questions. I hope so.
I think in emerging countries like Morocco, I think there are two problems. The first one is how to create a competence pool in this area, for example, and not to disseminate. Like in university, you say that each people want to be a big researcher in this area. And I ask you, what is your strategy to have this critical mass in this area? And the second thing, partnership with companies. The problem in Morocco, in other specialties, when you prepare some engineers, some technicians, sometimes you don't find job. Then students, you see that some Maghrebian students don't apply to your masters. Perhaps the response is they afraid to don't find job in this area. How to communicate with the young people to explain that in future you can find job? how to communicate to the young people to create also companies and startup in this area, and how to not dispatch energy. You understand my question? Thank you.
No, I think, firstly, I wanted also then to add what we also then need, because we had it from the French system or French model. For our PhD students, it would be then fine to have all the time for technical areas to have also engineers who are doing also then the PhD. Because today, unfortunately, I have to say in Morocco, we have then still the same French, we have the French model system, we have the elite engineering schools, and then we have the universities, and people are, first they are trying then to get a scholarship or to be then to go inside the engineering school. If it doesn't work, because they have the ANC, if it doesn't work, they will then go to the university, and then after the study, if they don't find a job, they will say, okay, I become a researcher, and they will have then a scholarship of it was, I think, 70 euros per month there. That's the big problem. I think it's very important also then to try to pull people and also engineers to start and to be PhD students also, and to work in the field of research. But we have also, and that's why when we started to finance those applied R&D projects involving universities and companies, we saw we had then to push researchers, and they have then to change the way that you think, but it was the same also for companies. Companies have also then have then to change the way to think, because we have a tradition of trading in Morocco, not a tradition of technology development. But we have then to start. I think it's important when we are speaking, it's also the role of universities, but we normally when we are reading some media or some media papers, all the time we're speaking about the huge programs and huge numbers, 9 billion, 6 billion, and yesterday I told you a small story. When I come back from Germany and I supported then the creation of our Moroccan Agency for Solar Energy. Our CEO meets one time with a banker, and the banker came to him and told him, "Wow, Mr. Bakouri, you will have $9 billion US. Please don't forget, you have then to work with us." And he told him, "No, I don't have the 9 billion. I have now to find 9 billion." And he said, "Good luck, bye." And I have to say, a lot of students, people are seeing this euphoria, but I think it's important for me personally, when I'm trying then to hire people, sometimes I want to have experts in thermodynamics, experts in power electronics, and not an expert on with a beautiful name, beautiful renewable energy. That's the point. We need then different experts, and that's why, as I told you, it was maybe wrong that all the people then started. And a few weeks ago, I heard, we will develop a master for lithium batteries.
Bien sûr que l'ambiance ici est informel, alors si vous devez adresser une question en français.
Je répondrai en français.
Bien sûr. I mean, the official language for Maghreb Hub is English, but of course feel free. Because the really important thing here is, of course, all the documents have to be written in English and so, and we have to use English as much as we can, but
I want to say that the problem is the same thing in Tunisia. Today I'm coming from industry, but all research laboratories are working, everyone alone on his laboratory, and not seeing what the other one is doing. And other on other research. If this one is working on thermodynamic, the other one is working on electronics, but they don't see each other. Never. This is
Maybe,
the problem of industry.
maybe they would also buy the same expensive equipment, and they will not share the equipment with the other one. That's my
In Tunis, we have two laboratories, in Init and in Bruxelles. Everything new, doing nothing.
That's the problem.
Everything new.
Okay. So, well, perhaps it's difficult to change probably. I understand because in UPC and other universities, we work in a bottom-up way. This means that there is the opposite of top-down. Top-down means that, to me, that the rector is saying, please, you should work in this field, you should work in this field, you should work in this field. Well, here we work in the other way, so bottom up, so this means that the professors are independent, let's say, in an activity, and it is not working so badly, but of course, we could improve our efficiency, that's clear.
Yeah.
But this, on the other way around, this means that sometimes some professors individually identify some opportunities that have not been identified by the rector. This may happen. So well, there. I mean, at this moment, UPC is the first university in Spain in European funding in research, and top 5 in Europe in European funding for international masters. So we're not so bad. But we work this way, so we can improve.
I have also then to say, for example,
it's difficult to say, but of course, I think that at the end, if we can create the ambient and the spirit of collaboration with all of us, I think that this should help. But probably, as you say, it's something a little bit cultural or historical or something like that.
but we need then to use new instruments. I have to say, for example, for the platform, it was also not a bottom-up approach. But here, for example, we have a platform, but in reality, we have only maybe 8 projects. And those 8 projects, they had to be installed in different locations in Morocco. And we said, then we have then to try and to create synergies. And what we could use as an instrument is, of course, is finance funding, it's money. And here, for example, and today, it's open for other universities. But if a university wants them to work there, or a researcher, they have to have a project, and then it would be then it's open. And then funding is very important, because when you say, okay, this is for my funding system, we need a minimum of 2 universities or a minimum of 3 universities, and then you will then check. We are not financing the same equipment, or also on the national level, 3 times or 4 times for that. No. And then at this moment we are saying you have then to work together, and I think there are also some possibilities then to do this.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I think it's very
What in Morocco? What are you doing to ensure the adequacy between the academic programs and the medium or short term of professional needs?
Yes.
It's the role of professors.
Yeah, definitely. I think we had, for example, the minister in charge of energy, mine, water, and environment for the specific topic of renewable energy, conducted then the study, or the finance study, to know the needs, and it's a good study. But the problem is then after we had a meeting, and some representative of different universities came, they saw some results, but I'm sure they didn't use then the results. I think the best way, and it's also for me a good model we had to adapt it for Morocco. A good model is also the need approach in the development of institutions, and not the offer approach. For example, Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, this well-known applied R&D institution, also in the development of human resources and on department, is based on the need. When they have 3 people who are working in a specific field, it's called exploration group. When they have enough financing from different sources, Germany or EU or industries, when they have 5 people working on a topic, it's a group, it's a real group, it's not an exploration. 10 people is a department. 4 departments, they have then the right then to set up their own institute, because there is a need. I think that's very important also in the development, also in the financing, and to say, if you want them to work on this topic, but nobody wants or is able to give money for this project, then you are free, but I will not finance your project. And what we said, for example, to the government, we said for our financing system model, like it's the same, for example, in Germany for Fraunhofer Gesellschaft. In Fraunhofer Gesellschaft, when they are acquiring €1, they will receive, I think, €1 or 50 cents from the German government at the end of the year. Not at the beginning, really at the end. And we said we want them the same. And we said, okay, not 50%. We want them to have at the beginning 200%. That's the case. Yeah, 200%. But it's very important. And for us, it's also the same in the development of IRESEN and of the departments. When I'm saying, for example, we had PV, solar systems, modelization of resources, cartography, and also we thought about wind. And then when we saw the potential is very low, we stopped. We invested maybe we didn't invest more than 2,000 euros for wind power, and we stopped. And then we are more than doing for PV, for CSP, and for modelization because of the needs. And it has to be then also then the same more contact to the industry, because at this moment you will have then more des thèses de fin d'année, donc qui répondent aux besoins de l'industrie. Des doctorats qui vont répondre aussi aux besoins de l'industrie, et pas des choses où c'est absolument la même chose. Moi, une fois, on m'avait dit, un professeur, ah ben voilà, ou enfin les étudiants, on choisit toujours ce professeur parce que c'est très facile de faire le sujet de fin d'études, c'est toujours le même. C'est toujours le même. Et lui, bon, il corrige, c'est toujours... this strong link to the industry, I think it's a key. It's a key, and I have to say that slowly we are SSN. I am notifying changes, a lot of changes on both sides, on the side of researchers in Morocco, but also on the side of companies. We have now in Morocco some companies which are definitely companies which are really then starting then to invest, to say, I want them to develop my own CPV technology. I don't want only them to buy it. And in Tunisia, you have, for example, some very good programs, like solar water heater program. And it was the opportunity for some people to say, yeah, we want them maybe to develop their own products. We started, in Morocco, it was then different. In Morocco, we started to develop solar water heaters 10 years ago. We had around about 20 companies, and today nobody is doing own manufacturing of solar water heater. Only importing from China or from other countries. Other companies maybe, or for example.
And little details about masters. To be accredited, you have to, by ministry, you have to have a relation with industry. No, it's a new in Morocco. So, but
do you need only a signature? Or is this a real partnership?
No, first only like you give us letters. So
that's the point.
And, no, but yes, and after that we can have agreement. And when you have a beginning in the master, I think in PhD it's more easy.
No, definitely, and also for us for the projects. Why are we saying for our call for proposal? We need all the time in the consortia, a company, and the university. Because and normally it was the case in the past in Morocco, people are doing something without to check if somebody wants to have it or if there is a potential. And then after they say, now I have to try to valorize it. And we need people to, when you have partners, and from the beginning you have a company, then this company will support you. Maybe this company then will adopt, will develop the product. Or this company will then has also a network, and they will then also support. It's very important. I would say at this moment it's 80% then easier to valorize the result as when you are only alone.
In Tunisia, they're trying to do a new program. It's named Mobidoc. Mobidoc is financed by the Ministry of Energy, but it is research done directly in the company. Not a laboratory.
Okay, the company.
And this is
In cooperation with
how they want
the Ministry of Energy.
How do they want to finance it? Is it then due?
It is 80% financed by the ministry and 20% by the company.
But is it direct funding or is it?
C'est funding, yeah.
Mais est-ce qu'ils le font à travers les impôts ou à travers?
Non, à travers un fonds financé par l'Union européenne. Et c'est tout.
No, c'est très intéressant. So this program, just to see the full eventual connections with what we're doing, this program is intended for a work defined by the industry, by the company.
Yes. The demand is coming from the industry.
It's coming from industry?
Yes.
So there is not any participation from any university? It's
Yes, of course.
okay. So,
Yes.
so this...
You can have 1 or 2 universities.
Okay. Because I know here in Spain, well, in fact in Catalonia, here in Barcelona, it is very recent, it is 1 year ago. It was established something which in France is very common, which is the industrial doctorate. The industrial doctorate means that a company is defining the topic. The company chooses a candidate for the PhD. The candidate is working in the company. The candidate is having an advisor in the company, preferably a doctor, but if not an advisor, and a PhD advisor in the university. And then the government is paying for the social security of the candidate, is paying for all the tuition fees in the university for doctorate. They are paying for 6 months of mobility anywhere in the world. And on top of that, the companies, they have the tax benefits because this is an R&D activity. So then this means that they have tax benefits. So at the end,
Yes, with mobility. Now with mobility.
Okay, so then that's interesting because I think that we should, if you have similar experiences in Morocco, I think that we should have, because for the PhD action, which is not so simple, for example, in Kick Energy, we cannot invest funds from Kick Energy because of our legal team. I mean, in Kick Energy, the model for the PhD in Kick Energy, particularly in the case of Kick Energy, is not paying contracts for the PhD students. This is because the differences in the PhD system in different countries in Europe, for example, in the case of Sweden, because of legal restrictions, you have to pay the contract for the PhD student and the contribution of the advisor and the overheads for the university. So then the global cost is 100,000 euros per year.
No.
So yeah, it's and then it's been impossible because Sweden is an important partner in energy, so we cannot apply because we cannot make something that is different in different countries. Okay, so this means that in the particular case of PhD, we don't have scholarships for the PhD students in Kick Energy. So this means that if we can identify actions like this one, in order to make the efficient use of the resources, this should be excellent. So then, please, if you can send me some information about this program, the link of the website, this will be excellent. And if you have something similar in Morocco, this should be excellent to know as well, because, or perhaps we can share in the afternoon session, we can look for the website and so on. Okay. But that's interesting.
Madame, vous avez une question?
Ah, yes.
Non. Très bien.
Okay, so
Thank you very much.
yeah, happy. Thank you. Thank you again. Now it's the time for Seville. But your presentation is already uploaded.